after the sunfall. Daylight triggers a lethal bloom, an airborne photophagic veil that flashes into heat and poison under direct sun. Humanity flips its hours. Cities learn to breathe in blackout. And in the dark hours between moonrise and dawn, couriers thread the ruins with messages, medicines, seed keys, anything the night can carry, and the day would incinerate. Noah is one of the best. A night courier with a blackglass bike, a map of shade corridors tattooed behind the eyes, and a strict set of rules. When Noah accepts a hard case run to Arc 7, the last inland seed vault, everything goes sideways before midnight. The case isn't what it looks like. The route isn't what the maps promised. And the people who want it stopped know how to make the night itself dangerous. Expect tense night runs, blue hour hideouts, heat discipline, dew harvesting, UV-coated trail marks, feral solar drones, sundogs, mirrored raiders, Daylords, and the math of survival when sleep and sun can kill you faster than enemies can. Prologue. The daylight problem. They taught us the old way in school. Pictures of people on beaches, shirts off, eyes squinting, children drawing suns like yellow coin halos in the corners of paper. It looks like a fairy tale now. We do our drawing in charcoal. We put the sun at the bottom of the page. We label it, don't touch. The sunfall wasn't a bang. It was a season that wouldn't move on. The sky stayed too clear for too long. Oceans threw their heat back like insults. Someone lofted a reflective dust to nudge the dial. The dust took the job, then unionized. Molecules learned a trick with light absorb, release, absorb and turn the air into tinder. You step into open sun now, and the world plucks you like a string. First heat, then a peal of pain like you're being unwrapped from yourself. We sleep by day. We move at night. We build our lives in the hours that used to be empty, and we keep the day behind walls painted black enough to make light change its mind. If you're new to night work, I'll give you the rules I learned and kept. Not because rules are magic. Because when your body is negotiating with the sun, you need to outsource your thinking to something you made the night before. Rule 1. Never be between the sun and flat ground at dawn. The angle will take you before your shadow can warn you. Rule 2. Move black to black. If you must cross gray, do it when the stars are loud. Rule 3. Heat is a second predator. Manage it. Sweat is currency. Spend it on purpose. Rule 4. Every run has a blue hour. Pick the hole before the hole picks you. Rule 5. Light is a language. UV speaks in day. IR speaks in night. Say only what you mean. My name is Noah. I run the night roads for people who remember what science is for. Tonight, I'm taking a hard case west, inland, toward Arc 7, where seeds sleep and old promises get one more chance. Chapter 1. Black-glassed bike is silent because I paid noise off early in my career. The frame is black glass, a composite that eats stray light and forgives bad decisions. The rims wear a fluoropolymer skin that shrugs dust. I carry a spare chain in a sock with rice, because moisture is a thief with no conscience. I'm in a garage that used to belong to a man who polished his car on Sundays. The car is a cave now. The walls are matte, the windows layered with blackout cloth and old theater curtains. The room smells like rubber and sleep. The hard case sits on the workbench. It's not large, but it makes gravity feel nervous. The courier liaison slid it across to me at dusk, with a look that meant you'll say no if you're smart. You'll say yes if you know what nights are for. I took it because both things were true. 2 nights, she said. Blue hours at your discretion. Priority at Arc 7's east mouth. If you're late, leave it at drop G and set the beacon. What's in it? I asked, out of tradition, not hope. A voice, she said. In math? Cold? I asked. It would prefer to be, she said. I load it behind the seat on the low rack, straps crossed in a figure 8. I trust more than any promise. I wrap the case in a blanket that drinks heat, old firefighter stock. The last useful thing a city bought before it sold itself to the sun, closing parenthesis, inventory like prayer. Filters, 2 mouth noses, charcoal core, silver mesh, 1 spare membrane, water, 2 liters in black bottles, plus the dew neck rolled small like a sin you'll commit later. Salt tabs, glucose gels, a packet of soup that tastes like sleep, black tarp, steaks, thermal mylar, cord 50 feet. IR pen, UV chalk, grease pencil, 2 ceramic blades, 1 blunt for rope, 1 sharp for hubris, handheld that sees in heat and lies about distance, battery bank wrapped in a sock, 2 small panels for trickle, that never sees day. Rule 6, pack as if the night will betray you and the day will finish the job. I check the straps again before I put the pack on, because that's a religion I'll keep even when I stop believing in anything else. I lube the chain with a whisper of dry dust, won't stick to what it can't see. I kiss my knuckles against the door, because the habit refuses to go extinct. Cities clear to the ark? I ask the liaison. She's listening to the night like it might pass a law. Clear enough, she says. Daylords flex down at the viaduct. We rearrange the signage. What's their appetite? Mirror and malice, she says. They've got a sundog, dead battery. They'll try to make your night cost you tomorrow. I like my tomorrows, I say. She smiles without showing teeth. Run black and don't get poetic at the river. I love advice that knows me. I clip in, breathe in through the filter, out through the mask, count once, twice. The clock on my wrist says 2041. The city's arc lamps are off. No one wastes a lumen. Night lives by habit. The garage door opens like a pupil dilating. Darkness greets us like an old friend that will always make us pay. Chapter 2, Umbra City Night, has districts like they did, just different labels. The Umbra is where black-painted walls remember you and refuse to tell on you. The penumbra is where the moon wants to audition for the day. We keep to the Umbra as long as possible. The city's alleys conspire with us. I move between blackout sheets hung as streets, a quilt sewn by 10,000 hands. The tires hush on grit. A cat stares and decides I'm not a story. I ride past a mural of a sun with its eyes crossed out. Subtlety is for noon. UV tells tailies on edges. I clicked the pen and read the chalker's script. Arrows you only see when the spectrum changes. Tonight's hand says viaduct bad in a set of hash marks that mean don't learn this twice. I detour through the undermarket tables gone. A smell of old fruit that woke up fermented. Rule 7. Trust the quiet hands who mark your way. The loud ones want an audience. The chalkers want you alive. At the river. The wind reaches in and rearranges our plans. The bridge is a black spine, metal bones that hate the day and forget names at night. The Daylords like to fish here, mirrored cloaks, polished face shields, the kind of theater people invent when the day is their god. I see a glint too long, too steady. That's not window glass. That's a mind trying to be a trap. I drop off the ramp and hug the abutment where the city builder forgot to fill a space. My heat set paints blues and oranges. A body lurks warm. Mirror man with a crouch that says he was taught to ambush by a movie. A sundog hunkers defunct behind him. A feral drone with solar wings painted like feathers, jaws of motors, nose of camera. Nasty in full sun. Cat in rain at night. I draw a line on the bridge wall with a grease pencil. A symbol that says, noise here is expensive. Then I wait. Patience is free until it isn't. The Daylord spotter clicks a tone. The sundog's optics turn to grayscale night mode, hungry, battery thin. It tracks me when I lean just enough to give it a moving picture. I draw a loop in the air with IR that only its dead heart can see. It lurches eager. The Daylord hisses. The drone hits the rebar I tied with 2 inches of IR tape months ago when I ran this route sloppy and paid for it. The tape glows in the dog's mind like daylight. The drone scrapes metal, eats its own camera, tries to bite a bridge. It chews nothing and meets gravity. Rule 8. Train the feral tools to eat someone else's bait tomorrow. Run. The Daylord shouts, and I do, but not where he expects. I slip under the underramp, past the bucket that used to be a hope, up through a notch that had a cat once. The bike complains politely when I lift it. Muscles make the better argument. I drop to the far side and do the one thing you have to love this job. I don't look back. I listen for feet that forget how to be quiet. I hear nothing but the river being smug. Asterisk, asterisk. The arc fence is a wall of old billboards stitched into a wedding of utility and denial. UV marks bloom. 3 arrows, a circle. Blue hour hide ahead. Thank the chalkers. Thank whoever didn't turn that billboard into a shield for a Daylord. I take the alley with the broken satellite dish and thought about nothing for 10 seconds. That's part of the trick. Give fear a chore. Chapter 3. Blue hour every night has a moment when the world tries to be less dark. The blue hour. The city keeps it for lovers and couriers. I keep it for a hole in the world no one else has claimed. Drop into the tenement that lost a floor. Through the skeleton of a kitchen where a fridge gapes like a dead mouth. Down the stairwell wrapped in blackout. Someone painted the banister with resin that eats light. Bless them for that dot. My hole is a room without a window. Walls lined with black wool. A floor layered in old crate foam. There's a vent at the baseboard that feeds a slow breath from the river. Dew net gets hung in the doorway like a veil. A kettle collects what the night exhaled. The stove is a ceramic cup that pretends to be a flame. The light never gets above my knee. I hang the black tarp 1 more curtain deep and check the door wedge. I unpack in the order I will pack again. Heat leaches out of bones. The case sits behind my knee where I can feel it disagree with me. Good. I like my cargo to be a person in the room. I take off the mask and drink a finger of water to remind my throat how to ask. Salt tab under the tongue. A soup packet emptied into a cup thick with starch, garlic, an herb pretending to be hope. Rule 9. The hole is a ritual, not a location. Curtains, wedge, dew, heat laid flat, things put in hand's reach without thinking. I don't sleep. Not yet. Blue hour steals night from both ends. I do the math. Dawn at 5:17. First light in the world's old language. In our language, it means don't be stupid. I set 3 alarms. Tactile, auditory, the drip of a dew net. I power the handheld with a battery that pretends it's not dying. Hello, says the handheld, and my spine tries to climb out of my back. The voice is not city standard. It's not Daylord. It's the liaison using a band she rarely uses. She knows I hate voices in my hide. What? I say. Because sentences will go feral if you feed them right now. Tag monitor says your case just asked for a different route. She says. Cases don't ask. I say. This one does, she says. It sent a path to Arc 7 through the East Green. That route's not in your map, because we don't have a map for places that aren't supposed to be alive, I say. It's within a kilometer of wind array theta, she says. The spinning bones? I say, nothing lives under those. Math thinks otherwise, she says. Your call. The case will survive a night in the blue if your hole does too. I'll take the bones, I say, and I hate me a little for wanting to see something that isn't a ruin. I hate the part that gets curious when death puts on a new coat. Don't get poetic, she says, as if that ever helped. Always, I say, because I lie to the people who know I lie. I strip down to skin for 10 minutes because heat sits on clothes like regret. My hand rides the case, not because I think someone will take it, but because my body needs to make an oath. Masks back on. Curtains layered. Wedge in. I close my eyes and build the array in my head. Tall white bones with blades that used to sip sky. Under them, a green that should not be green. If the case wants to go there, it knows a thing I don single quotes T.Rule 10. If your cargo knows more than you are either lucky or a character in someone else's story. Prefer luck. Prepare for the other. I sleep for 50 minutes. I dream the city opens its blackout and invites day in, and we all make it anyway. That's how I know I was dreaming. Chapter 4, Sun. Woe hours of night left. The river trades moods with the street. I eat half a gel that tastes like chemicals being polite. I pack in reverse order. The case goes on last, goes under my hand one more heartbeat. The dew net gives me a mouthful. It tastes like a promise someone else made for me. The handheld whispers 3 letters. IRR. The case is broadcasting through the shake detection tag. Irrigation? Irrelevant? Irritate? I hate guessing. Wind array theta sits like a hymn, ahead dark teeth on the horizon. I cut west through the rail trench and into a neighborhood that used to memorize sunlight. The chalkers mark a snake of UV the Daylords haven't learned. Or they've learned and decided we don't matter tonight. Good. We never matter to the day. That's our grace. A sound chews the sky. Not the partner to my chain. Not the hungry breath of a sundog trying to be day. It's a drone with batteries left and an intelligence like a glass. It has those parabolic ears that sip IR and a camera that can find a Night Courier because we're the only thing that moves like we forgot to be scared. It crests the viaduct and the world pitches blue. Not dawn, a flashlight bulb in a god's hands. I ride into a shadow that pretends to know me, and I remember. I taught this route to a sundog once and told it there would be meat here on a Thursday. It learned. It adjusted for week. Rule 11. Any trick you use twice belongs to the night now. Retire it like the shirt you loved. The drone sniffs where the IR tape used to be. I left nothing to love. It finds nothing to chew. It finds me anyway, because I am the newest thing under the sky. I go through the building with a hole in it and out on the other side and into a lane of blackout sheets hung like laundry. The drone rips sheet with a sound like a cheap tent in wind. I kick the skid on the bike and throw the rear into a turn that makes the case say don't, and my body say we must. The alley ends in black. I drop the tarp with one hand so it becomes ground. The bike eats it. The drone loses a second, and that's the night. Seconds. I slot the wheels into a culvert. The drone hits rebar again and makes a petition to the court of physics. It bursts a motor and screams like a plane, forgetting how to be airplane. It falls into the culvert in front of me, and the camera stares at me and then itself. The Daylords don't show. That's their trick. Maybe they're smart. Maybe they got a story that doesn't need me. I stand my bike up and tell my legs we have a deal. The array grows. Grass shouldn't be here. Green doesn't live under bones. But it does. The case hums with a heat that means hurry politely. I cut across old roadways that stop being roads. A fence made of gilt and ankle wire denies me work. I cut it where a rat would hide. I move through the corridor where people who don't want to die tonight already pulled the nettles. I say thank you to no one and mean it. Wind array theta is a cathedral someone forgot to worship in. The blades move enough to say motion. The pylons stand like the last adults in the room. Under them, water in trenches, lines in ground that look like veins. A green hush of plants that grew under night and learned a trick nobody told them. The case gets warmer. I think of seeds that would love to see a leaf. I think of math that would love to become soil. I think of the way the sun destroys everything I like and how I keep liking things anyway. Rule 12. Carry something that would live if you didn't. It reminds you you're a hallway, not a door. Arc 7, I say out loud because the plants won't tell on me. East mouth, says the handheld, which is either math or the liaison allowing herself a joke. I ride between trenches that ruffle X stars like a false sky. I keep my mask on because I am not an idiot. The plants smell like someone rehearsed the word garden and then decided to take it out for drinks. The pylons hum and the case hums, and for a second, the world hums the same note. I don't get religious. I use roads.arc7 isn't a vault in a movie. It's a hill with a door that refuses to act like a door. It's black inside and bites heat. I knock the way you knock in a place that doesn't trust you yet. IR. Line in a pattern math gave my liaison before either of us were alive. The door breathes. A figure in a hood that makes night darker puts a hand out. Cargo, they say. Voice behind a veil. IR kaleidoscoped so my camera can't love it later. Smart. I lift the case and feel a second that I knew I'd have to feel. I do not want to give it up. I hand it anyway. The way you drink water you brought for someone else. Keys, the figure says. Payment? I ask, because tradition will outlive all of us. They hand me a pouch that clinks. Metal keys? That would be fun. It's seed tabs. It's raw south. It's a debt the future pays in advance. Arc 7, they say, thanks you. They do not smile. They cannot afford faces in a world that steals them. The door closes. The array hums behind me. The day is out there, practicing being born. I ride back into the world I agreed to love because it gives me nights like this. Rule 13. Give the thing away. If you don't, it will eat you slowly. Dawn is a rumor, and I am a person who makes holes in the world to climb into when rumors become law. I find a black room under a staircase and ring it in curtains like a throat. I set the wedge in the dew net and my hand on my chest until my heart remembers. We finished a sentence. I sleep like a person who earned it. You don't wake up to noise anymore. You wake up to wrong light. I came to because my eyelids felt thin. A thread of white knifed across the tarp seemed so narrow, I could have mistaken it for a ghost if ghosts burned. Dust motes jittered in it, like confetti in a laser. The room smelled different to plastics, telling you they're about to remember being. Oil. Rule 14. Sun kills sideways. Pinholes are knives. Treat any white line like a fuse. Protocol is a reflex you pay for in calm nights. I threw the black blanket first heavy wool, the one with the firefighter edges, up and over the scene without standing. It drank the line, and the room exhaled. I still crawled backward, belly down, hand flat to the floor for the heat that travels faster than senses. Mask on. Hands find wedge still set. Good. The heat was localized. A coin-sized circle where the pinhole had kissed a curtain and started to make chemistry. I popped the stove lid. Ceramic becomes a shield in a pinch and slid it under the seam. 2 layers is law. 3 is religion. How'd it happen? The blackout drape by the stairwell had sagged in my sleep. Weaned just enough to tease fabric and make an angle. Angle to beam, beam to how it ends. Or someone had made it happen. I oiled the nerves with inventory. Water line at 1.5 liters. Dew cup 1/3. Soup residue on the tin, the smug smell of garlic. The case gone good. That weight belonged to Arc 7 now. The door wedge had fresh pressure marks wood, saying it resisted a hand at some point. Not ideal. Not a knock I'd allowed. I scraped charcoal from the stove lid, where the line tried to live and left a black fingerprint on my wrist where skin remembers rules. I smoked the upper scene with one drawn breath, just enough to watch smoke pull. It went nowhere. Good. Pinholes are honest. They want to be seen. Rule 15. Use smoke to find tomorrow's stupidity. A whisper is plenty. Quit before the room learns to cough. The hand on the wedge? Could have been a kid testing doors. Could have been a Daylord running a mirror cascade down the alley and checking which rooms woke up wrong. The Daylords don't love night, but they love turning day into a weapon with very little day. Mirror cascades are a sprinkler system for light. You set a cheap heliostat on a roof edge. Aim it at the cheap mirror on the balcony below, which hits the tin plate on a clothesline 3 floors down, which kisses a window you thought was boarded, which turns someone's morning into math. They take practice. They take time. They take a person who doesn't mind spending both in a city that prefers to forget them. I took the long way, out of the hole through the back closet and the stair jam where the walls hugged you for 3 steps, then let go. The black glass tape in my pocket covered the seam outside, like a parent putting a hand over a child's mouth, except gentler. I left a UV mark at knee level on the stair triangle open to warn. Cascade set. Move in Z, not straight dot back on the field level. The alley had the feel of angels if angels hated you too clean, too aligned. A shimmer on a window 2 floors up that wasn't broken glass. One of their mirrors flat sheet, bargain store, taped to a broom. The operator hard to see covered. His face with a shade cap that boiled the heat signature. Down to shoulder outline. Patient. The good kind of dangerous. I took the alley under the scaffolds and pushed the bike with the chain off so it wouldn't make even the whisper. The mirror moved like a mouth, forming a word. I set a foil shard upright by a trash bin with a painter's tape tail. Good decoys don't flash. They breathe. The mirror found my shard and kissed it in French, kissed back to nothing. The operator swore in a whisper that carried because guilt travels faster than ethics. The city doesn't belong to anyone in day anymore. That made theirs a hobby and mine a job. I took 2 right turns, 1 wrong, and landed in the undermarket tunnel with its theatrics of darkness. Chalk said go. I went. Rule 16. If a room almost killed you at noon, kill the room at night. Or don't go back. Your life is a pile of rooms. Curate it. Chapter 6. Under the Bones Night comes back like charity that learned efficiency. By 2110 the air had lost its hiss. The city's thermals stopped telling me old jokes. I aimed for the array again, because curiosity is a predator if you don't leash it to utility. Wind array. Theta stands out like skeletons that made peace with their graveyard. Blades murmured a slow vowel. Under them the green, I didn't understand last night, had a rule I could read in starlight. Shade cast maps. Blackout meshes were strung between pylons, like tarps in a thoughtful market. Ripstops aligned to the wind so they sang less. Beneath, trench water moved with a shyness I trust more than honesty. Arc 7 uses the bones of the last age to grow a future without asking us for permission. The east mouth's door scissored in the night with iron that knew how to dress the part. Yesterday's hooded figure wasn't. Tonight she wore a shade cowl cut brutal and kind, eyes scattering at the hem. Her voice did what you do when your walls are your first friend. Quiet, tired, clean. You came back, she said. Not impressed. Not afraid either. I don't repeat roots without learning the blasphemy first, I said. Your math asked me special. She looked at me like I had said poetry when she wanted a map. The case you brought carried 2 things, she said. Code for our irrigation that listens to air instead of orders. And a key. We don't call it that. But you will that unlocks a resource we couldn't ask for on. Radio. She held up a seed tab between finger and glove mat coin with a tactile pattern my hand recognized as capital. The tab was dense in the way. Future is the weight of many dinners in one pinch of polymer. Night corn? I asked because I wanted to be wrong. Shade maize, she said. Not manna. It sulks if you lie to it, but it grows a carbohydrate that won't poison itself under your murderer sun. She led me under Mesha cathedral of black. I smelled the green again, that hush of chlorophyll learning to be sneaky. Rows of plants with leaves like hands held out but down. Light that wasn't light, I bias with blue teeth, pulsed from strips like geography teachers, telling each leaf where to pretend the sun was coming from. You're going to plant this secret everywhere then, I said, without question marks. We're going to give it to the places that will keep it alive, she said, which is fewer than you think and more than you fear. The case's other voice was malicious code someone tried to feed into our pumps. We didn't broadcast because we like being alive. We spent your run asking the water to forgive us for having enemies. My back liked their honesty. It does better with back-aligned honesty than with faces. You have Daylords inside? I asked. We have people inside, she said. Some of them are good at fear, and fear has a flavor the Daylords know. You're a courier. You know what happens to math when it has to talk to hunger. She held the shade maze tab between us. We need one of these to go to Underline V, an underground farm that used to think it needed us. It doesn't like us. That's why it might keep a thing like this safe. And we need someone to carry a small message to your liaison. It says, we heard the voice. Thank you. Also, someone paid for a sundog to fail near your path. That one tried, I said. It ate a bridge. She half smiled. Live bridges are not its usual diet. We walked along the trench and watched a pump blink its I am healthy stop hovering. I wanted to put my hands on the mesh. I didn't, because I haven't been a fool about agriculture since I watched a vine take my cousin's steering wheel. I wondered if the Daylords had plant people. They probably did. Everyone has people now. That's what the sun did, made us all pockets that had to be smart or empty. Rule 17. Don't become a tourist in someone else's miracle. Take your job and go dot. She handed me the tab in a pouch that smelled like foam, sealed with stupid tape that fetches when you pull wrong and behaves when you pull right. She slid me a strip of sailcloth coated with I, and printed with a map folded into a secret, a path through a service maze that would put me at Underline V's upper hatch before the blue hour. The kind of gift you die for if you forget what paper does in rain. I memorized it and slid it into a slot in the frame that lives under the seat. Name? I asked, because what we had felt like something names could handle. Later, she said. When names are cheaper. Fine, I said. Noah. She catalogued it with no interest beyond utility. I liked her more for it. We prefer people who like us for what we do, not what we call ourselves. I rode out under mesh and didn't look back. I wanted to. I can be greedy about what I think is holy, but I'm not an amateur anymore. I let the night be the only thing that saw me. Back on the Umbra lanes, the city had developed a rash. UV chalk had been scrubbed in places and never used to get touched. The undermarket had 3 new mirrors at glove-height-teething Daylords practicing their cascade. One of the chalkers had done UV graffiti that made me laugh out loud. Cartoon of a sundog, chewing a bridge and puking screws. A small arrow under it. Not tonight, puppy. I left a grease pencil tick hour. Saw this, smiled, moved on. The liaison's hole was behind a pawn shop where guitars still hung like skeletons that hadn't learned to walk. She had her sleeves off, and the heat scars on her forearms looked like a map. We're all maps. Tell me a story without names, she said. That's our ritual. It keeps us from evangelizing. Bones are gardens now, I said. Water asked think for itself. Somebody shoved a mistake into it and hoped it would buy it a day. I gave your case to someone who doesn't get sentimental about thank yous. Her mouth twitched. And day? Tried to get in through a hole I forgot to introduce to wool, I said. The Daylords got a sundog battery up. It ate the wrong thing and learned to be humble. Price on your head is conversations, not commitments, she said. Their math is sloppy on that side tonight. They know you, though. The mirror cascade was for you. Or someone like you. Good, I said. Means they're spending time on the wrong problems. She slid the pouch I'd given her onto a back table like knives worth listening. She put a second case on the bench and didn't slide it. Heavy again, in a way that made me imagine seeds that swore they weren't seeds. It wasn't. It was empty. Hall? I asked. Not yet, she said. You're going down first. Underline V jammed their intake with good intentions and paper. They asked for someone with legs to show them how to ask water to be a partner again. They don't like Arc 7, I said. They might not like that I like them. They like night, she said. They just forgot how to talk to its lungs. I showed her Arc 7's sailcloth and the map that would make it a secret still. I handed her the sentence that said, voice received, sabotage found. She wrote it down in a language that doesn't exist because you can't steal what you don't think has meaning. You going by Underfold? She asked. Or Gloomhaven if the fans sputter, I said. Depends on what the river tells the vents. She put a finger on the battery tray like a mother teaching a child not to play with outlets. Careful with Underfold, she said. They have an argument with the sun. They think they're winning. They use glass words. Don't get into a theology fight with daylight. I left with a pouch heavier than hunger and lighter than politics. The map behind my eyes told me I could buy a slice of moon before I paid Blue Hour to hide me. I wrote, Rule 18. Briefs are for verbs. Leave your nouns at the door. Chapter 8. Underfold used to be subway line C before Sunfall. You went there to be near a band you wanted to want to like. After, the concrete remembered it was good at dark. Pumps remembered they had a job besides noise. Fans made an economy of lungs. The upper grate had been painted a black that looked like green if you looked at it wrong. Someone had loved their shade chart. The chalk mark I was meant to look for a broken square with a dot sat knee-high. I knocked the way people who prefer rope say hello. 3 small taps in the set that means, friend knows the script, but not the update. A voice came through a baffle, like the voice had been stored there with air. Hands open, it said. Mask on. Count. I counted. 2 in, 2 out. The voice counted with me and didn't try to make me feel anything about it. Good dot. The gate opened to a corridor that once knew gum. Now it knew paint so black, it told stories back at you. Underfold's religion had 3 colors, black, matte steel, and faint green at ankle height. Where you are supposed to look when you're scared. The guide met me halfway, a woman in a mask that had been custom once and now was repaired with care. She had duct tape at the corners of her mouth like punctuation. She wore a vest that hugged her like shelter and had belts that would hold a lot, but currently held nothing. You smell like outside, she said, friendly without making it a project. I smell like a bike and a mistake, I said. And she laughed with her eyes, because masks. Call me Wren, she said. We do bird names for day strangers. It makes the day angry. I like making the day angry, I said. Noah. Underfold used lights like punctuation small dots, never lines, never floods. The fans sound like rain if you miss rain. People moved in the way of those who share space, angled enough to Tetris past you. without touching your air dot they took pride in. Their day rooms, large plates of gold glass and alcoves, where the sun at noon filters through something, like mercy, and you stand and pretend you took a walk in the before time. It makes people cry. It makes lamps work less hard for an hour. It feeds a small cult, day rooms. I try not to make a face at other people's religion. I fail sometimes. Your intake? I asked, because verbs are what I came for. Paper, she said. And good intentions. We put charts where water needed courage. We forgot what paper does when water gets curious. We did not remember to ask the paper to be done first. We ducked into the maintenance run. A pipe vibrated with apology. A grate sobbed where it had been asked to eat leaflets that had made their point last year. We unscrewed a hatch that only wanted to be upright and pulled a bale of soggy words out of a pipe that needed breath. Underfold's air exhaled like a city learning patience. Again, Rule 19. Remove the performance before you fix the machine. Paper is for mouths. Water is for pipes. We left the Treadle plan on their wall a map for borrowing night and storing it in vats, the way old cities used to store cold in ice houses. We showed them the brine trick salt to drop the freeze point. A bucket under a bucket. They showed us their fan bank, a thing of beauty. 12 big discs salvaged from a museum, turned by belts cut from car seats, wrapped in filter jackets that would make a buy in marketer weep. They paid me in coolth, the literal absence of heat, stored in tanks. They stuck the breakable in a battery silk and strapped it to my rack with a competence that made me want to invite them to a race. The dayroom people at the edge watched from behind glass. They saw me in their picture window as a wrong kind of day. The one with a mirror pendant made a face that said, "Don't tell me about night." Wren saw me see them. They come down after noon, she said. They stand in filtered glow and say we beat it. Then someone comes and unsticks a paper from a grate, and they forget about winning and go back to being people. If their glass breaks. I started. It will, she said. Everything does. We keep them for now because you keep paperweights until you sell the desk. You teach them how to run the fans first. We did a last loop of their diagram. Arrows that tell new lungs how to ride. Then Wren took me to the back gate and made the world a whole again. Tell Arc 7 we don't owe them favors, she said. Tell them we'll take their seeds because we like them. Tell them if they try to give us day, we'll send the gift back with vinegar on it. I'll tell them they're not invited to your day rooms, I said. She snorted. Nobody's invited to my day rooms. That's the point. We counted breath again. 2. 2. We knocked the post with 3. She knocked the other side with 2. It felt like a rope. Rule 20. Trade competence. Keep faith. Leave the cults to their corners. Back topside, the night had deepened into that velvet that makes even the broken storefronts look like love. My bike felt like a friend. My body felt like a hallway for what I was carrying. The dew net told me I'd earn a mouthful if I hung it in a breeze on a wall that forgot to be walled during the earthquake. The blue hour tapped my shoulder and said, "Think about it." I thought about how to be where the sun will lose, and the night will let me be uninteresting for 6 minutes. I found a stair room that had seen 100 blankets. I layered it again. I ate the soup that tasted like routine. I put my hand on the rack. The coolth bled into my palm just enough to tell me it would still be itself tomorrow. I slept like a person who dragged wet paper out of a throat and lived in a world that sometimes said, "Thank you." They call it heliotrope. No one inside does. Daylords never name things the way maps want. But the chalkers wrote heliotrope, don't, in UV on a freeway pillar. And I believe people who prefer parentheses to exclamation points got it sits where the river splits around a slab of old stadium. A bowl turned bright by 10,000 cheap mirrors. They've built altars of glass vanity panels taped to doors. Car windshields leaned into planes. Microwave doors with their guts ripped out and polished. The mirrors face east like a congregation that forgot what season it is. At night, they rehearse Dawn Dot from the Umbra. The place is beautiful if you forgive it. 100 tiny moons throw skeins of faint light across pillars. A woman in a shade veil runs a cascade heliostat, to plate to polished hubcap, to a wall that used to sell soda. The beam looks like a thought made visible. It lands on a sun icon spray-painted in gold. Someone sighs. Religion survives on sighs. I keep to black. If you must respect art, respect it by not walking into it. Rule 21. Mirrors multiply your mistakes. Treat every reflection like a window the day can climb through tomorrow. They practice first light at 2:32 hours after midnight, 4 before physics. The cascade operators stand under their contraptions with faces turned away. Even night eyes hate the needles of light. A kid bangs a pan once. The mirrors tilt. A rippling rectangle inches across concrete toward a stencil that says wake. They're making dawn with knives. It almost works. That's what scares me. I run under the grandstand skeleton and read chalk between beams. Double chevrons. Then a serpentine arrow that means don't walk straight. I obey. Mirror traps love straight minds. A scout steps into the aisle 2 tiers up, mirror plate at chest like armor. He has a cascade trigger, a pair of laser pointers ducked, taped to a clamp nothing elegant. He wants me to move into the path where the cascade will kiss me, not with heat, but with attention. He thinks attention is the good predator. He's not wrong about most people. I lift the ire pen low and write a line on the concrete lip. His parabolics catch it and twitch. I keep my body in shadow, my face behind filter, my breath in the number I like. 2 in, 2 out. He scans again with that head tilt Daylords get when they want to smell hate. I let him smell boredom. He loses interest. Mirage towns always want you to light them up with disapproval, and disapproval throws reflections. I leave a UV note at ankle height. Your glass will eat you. Beneath, smaller, not tonight. Someone will step over it and smirk. Maybe not in my lifetime. Maybe in theirs. The stadium coughs out to a rail cut. I ride gray to black and don't turn my head. Heliotrope hums behind me, like religion with a budget problem. I don't fix faith. I fix roots. Chapter 10. Heat Market Nocturne Exchange used to be a cloverleaf. Now it's 4 loops draped in black cloth with stalls tucked under freeway ribs. You trade quietly, in verbs and little jars. Nobody sells light. Light sells you. The first thing I notice is wrong heat. The air has a fever where it shouldn't. Pockets of IR glow hang like lanterns under cloth. Too many, too high. Not cooking fires, no hiss, no steam, no heartbeat of preparation. Someone built a heat fence. Rule 22. When heat lies, change spectrum. Flip to UV. Trust airflow. Read shadows of warmth. I kill the handheld's thermal, and my eye stops being blinded by oranges. UV pen out. A quick pulse along the stall lips. Chalkers did their work. There's tags bloom like constellations. Stall names that mean friend, friend's cousin, never again. In a code they don't teach you, unless you're worth a meal. The heat fence arcs between 2 never again stalls. I set the bike on my hip and walk with the push. That says I'm hunting moss, not buying trouble. The heat fence shimmers next to my cheek with static. Hairs lift. This isn't just warm. It's charged. Someone ran current through heating coils salvaged from ovens and strung them under cloth at chest height. The idea: force IR users into the thermal equivalent of glare, the way you blind a camera with a flashlight. After that, you corral them into a funnel. Then you make noise. Then you harvest. I unclip the coolth canister from the rack and hug it under my vest. It's a long, thin bladder we stole from someone's SC unit and taught to remain dignified. I crack the valve a notch. Air chills my ribs like a kind apology. Cold plumes in a bloom you can't see unless you're a camera that loves difference. Cameras love difference. I throw the cold sideways with my hand evaporative fog off my shirt. A little bitty cloud. It moves like a body if you want it to. The heat fence leans toward my decoy. Someone behind cloth makes a satisfied little noise that carries to ears trained for it. Rule 23. Make cold be your double when heat gets vain. The funnel stalls 2 wagons covered in blackout shift to close. I step the other way into a scene between tarps that looks too narrow. It isn't. I'm not in their funnel because I read the chalk marks on the curb. 3 short UV dashes in a row. Means vendor hates ambushes. The chalker who runs this pitch isn't on today. But marks persist longer than loyalty dot as I slide through. The eye or bladders someone hung for decoys pop off their strings and swing like sad fruit. The heat fence flickers. And you flash too bright, too white a magnesium candle thrown by a nervous person who thought white light would help. It doesn't. It proves the rule. Don't burn light where light eats people. The flash writes an afterimage that hates retinas. I blink not because I need to, but because convention calls. And tradition sometimes protects you from looking like you're not human. Something hunks near my ankle. I don't look down. Looking down is how memories get you shot. I step by sound, not the thud of glass, not the scrape of knife on painted cement. Soft fabric on grit the stall canvas, puckering as someone pulls it wrong. I go under it like I'm bored a circus. A hand catches the edge of my pack. Not a good grip. More practice than commitment. I'd respect it if it threatened my work less. I drop my elbow into the angle where wrist meets forearm and meet it with the blunt ceramic blade. Tap, not slash. He gasps, not because he's bleeding, but because nerve meets unexpected curriculum. Not personal, he says. Good, I say. Then we can both pretend to feel nothing later. The heat fence hum drops a tone. Someone else cut a line farther down. The market scolds itself with silence. Quiet returns like a tide. People shop for yeast and rope and memory as if they didn't almost become parts. Night has bad manners but good habits. I buy 2 bits of bent piano wire from a woman with calluses that say fences and a laugh that says, not amused. Ever. I pay with a strip of UV chalk and paper. Because chalk travels better than currency now. She sees my cool bladder and doesn't comment. Night professionals keep each other's upholstery secrets. No one follows me out. Respect or fear. I'll take either. They call it Quarry 9 because 8 others failed to survive their own cleverness. This one keeps a ledger. Picture a limestone bowl with its ribs chewed raw by machines that sleep forever. Now cover half the bowl in heliostat daisies mirrors on gimbals chained to cheap servos and expensive intent. In the day, they aim all their faces at a tower in the pit, a black spike wrapped in pipes. The spike drinks sunlight and coughs heat into salt tanks, molten by lunch. They pour day off into flares, glass tubes of sensible heat sealed with guilt, and sell them at midnight to people who think attention is a weapon. At night, the quarry steams. Heat trapped in rock exhaled. Air no longer a friend. Thermal snakes, coiling at ankle height. Gusts that make your filter wonder about its faith. I came because the liaison asked me to look, not to fix. Arc 7 logged a pattern, she said. Sabotage code didn't come from Mirror Church. It rode here first. I lay on the rim with a scope that doesn't argue about spectrum. Ire made everything a liar. UV showed me chalk on catwalks. a chain of chevrons and a little pictogram of a hand with the fingers apart. The chalkers call that one hot, meaning not the good kind. The night crew ran a harvest 2 carts with insulation quilts, 4 people in shade veils, 1 person in a coat that used to laugh at welders. They ladled heat into tubes from the tower, using pipes wrapped in ceramic, and capped the tubes with wax and a prayer. The caps had little retroreflective dots on them, like the battens on a safety vest. Even in our world, marketing survives. Rule 28. Don't be the coldest thing in a hot place. You'll pull wind and attention. Match the room or leave it. I rubbed a handful of quarry dust on my sleeves, so my IR signature looked less like a courier and more like regrettable geology. I slung the blackglass bike where limestone would hide it if asked politely, and belly crawled the rim. The problem with harvesting day for sale is that day is promiscuous. It gets everywhere. I watched a worker set a tube on a pallet and recoil when it bit him through his glove. He hissed pain through his teeth and then laughed toward his friends as if to make a story before the nerve could. They laughed back. Rituals make bad habits look like culture. A second group worked in the shadow of the tower. One of them wore a back harness with ribs of metal something, between a radiator and a backpack hoses feeding back to a pack with a slow fan. Radiative suit. Sun battery. They were topping off a sundog body on a hoist. Threading a cable. Fitting a flare as a belly. Not feral tonight. Groomed. Sold. I saw the sabotage in the corner of the frame. A maintenance console with a baffle filter lifted. A cable patched with the wrong color of tape, the kind of tidy only a guilty hand makes. Code had ridden that cable dot. After midnight, a caravan arrived. Little circle of Daylords with mirrored kerchiefs over their faces, as if anyone cared how handsome a thief looked. They paid in glass panels and blade polish, and a rumor that heliotrope would be doing. Sunrise practice with full cascade. Tomorrow. Quid for a quo that made me want to rewrite. Physics. I could feel Arc 7's nameless hood in my throat. This place wasn't just selling attention. It was selling leverage. The quarry keeps poor fences because it believes its own heat. I slid down the back slope to a catwalk and took my time. Heat ghosts past 10-degree winds that made my black breath want to cry. I treated them like gossip. I saw the code board up close, a panel labeled in chalk, "Don't," with the letters wiped. The cable patch taped in beige, not black. Beige tape is personality in a dangerous place. Rule 29. Beige tape in a black room is a confession. Photograph with eyes. Fix later if it's yours. Fixing it tonight would end my night permanently. I cataloged and kept my hands to myself. I took a mental print. Port block with the clip missing. Console window cracked. Hand smudge where someone habitually touched the corner before typing. Loader spun and made a broad wash of IR that painted my position like wet paint. I dropped under the catwalk and let the night exhale around me. A flare slid and cracked open on the decking. A snake of white heat drooled out, gagging the air. Someone yelled, "Watch," because Daylords don't like no. And the crew did the graceful panic people get when their rituals say that everything is fine. It was, this time. I left like I'd teach a kid to leave when no one was watching. At the rim I chalked low. 3 UV chevrons, and a line a chalker's shorthand for moving hazard plus line of sight. Then drew a small open triangle. This is a mouth. Someone will read it. They'll decide whether to keep selling day now that a courier saw how the sausage receives sunlight. On the ride back, the liaison slept in a radio that learned not to wake for less than floods. I left her a paper reel paper under a rock behind the pawn shop door. Beige tape. Sun battery. Mirror church cash. She hates nouns and caps. She reads them anyway. Rule 30. When you can't shut down a machine today, Write it down where tomorrow can find it. The day keeps receipts. So should Night. Chapter 14. Duel in a moving shadow. There's etiquette for courier disputes. It's petty and beautiful. You write the rules on the side of a warehouse in Greece. Time, place, number of witnesses, what part of the route you're arguing over. You never involve civilians. You move in black. You don't break wheels or names. Someone wrote me a letter on the chalk forums. Glass-gen challenges Noah. Viaduct 3. Moon plus 40. Jean runs glass shade sales and portable facades, mobile Umbra. She's famous for outrunning the day behind a moving wall. We'd both used the viaduct me during Night 2, her during Blue Line. She thought I cut it sloppy and made heat for a kid. I thought she hung a sail too low and caught a sundog's whisker. We were both right. We met in the middle of the old rail yard under a slow, turning crane hook that makes a lazy shadow in steady wind. Witnesses. 4 chalkers and a man with a rope ladder hobby. We knocked masks with knuckles, a currency transfer called respect. 2 laps, she said. Under moving shadow. No hard lights. No noise above whisper. Winner gets route flag and paints the sign after. Draw means we go drink dew and declare the viaduct allergic, I said. She grinned. It makes you like a person. Deal. Rule 31. If you have to fight a professional, pick an etiquette that leaves both of you alive enough to be useful. The moving shadow started as a polite band under the crane. The wind decided not to be inert. The hook drifted, shadow slid. We rode like fish in a current that keeps changing its mind. Our sails hers real, mine improvised mattered. She carried a collapsible shade wall on a boom carbon ribs blackout sail that drank starlight. I carried a tarp on a telescopic pole and a length of reflective aluminum that throws black as well as mirror. If you hold it wrong for physics, bet you learn to surf umbrellas in this job. I slid under her sail when the hook moved left, then threw my own to keep my little house moving. She pivoted the boom with a wrist flick that made me want to take a class. The shadow slid like a friendly dog. We slipped through the viaduct spans without scraping their teeth. Midway through lap 1, a gust took the sail and tried to make it a parachute. She cut a line fast, left corner saving the sail at the cost of area. I rode past and offered my pole to keep the umbrella wide for both of us. She took it without irony, chirped 2 knocks on the pole with her knuckle. Thanks. Etiquette layered on etiquette. The chalkers added a tiny awe sound, like a room crowd breathing at a play. I resented loving it. Lap 2, she ran a decoy, tossed her sail high for a second, so the shadow looked bigger than it was. I did the mean thing and didn't fall for it, then made a dumber mistake and chased the shadow when the hook moved the other way. The rule is, chase space, not shade. Shade is a byproduct. I forgot and nearly decorated a pillar. We hit the finish with wheels on the paint at the same time. One of the chalkers took a picture with their eyes and drew the line on the wall with a flourish. Draw. She laughed, peeled her mask just enough to grin with a human mouth. You almost got sentimental, she said. You offered a pole. You cut left corner without wasting a knot, I said. Teach me sometime. She made the sign with a brush. We painted the rule in big letters low on concrete, where knees can read. Viaduct 3 equals 2. Moving shadow only, cut left. Chase space, not shade. Rule 32. When 2 maps collide, hang 1 rule in public. Argument becomes culture. Culture saves strangers. We drank dew at the undermarket and called it a night. Glass Joan has Daylord scars she puts where cameras can't see. I do too. We didn't compare. Chapter 15. The night the mirrors burned themselves. You can't fight a church with scripture. You fight it with weather. Arc 7 cent. A line that wasn't a request so much as a scheduling note written in politeness. Window opens. 1:22:05. Fog manufactured on Ridge 4. Night wind from west forecast plus or minus 0.3. Heliostat failure cascade probable if line B hums at 12 kilohertz. Math doing liturgy. The liaison raised an eyebrow like a person who remembers summer. You showing up for a choir? I don't sing, I said. I lift. We met above heliotrope at the notch where the ridge puts its shoulder between wind and bowl. Arc 7's nameless hood had a rigafogger, dragged into place with bike straps, and an arrogance that made me like them less and admire them more. Harrow Cousins had brought shadow sails, big blackout rectangles on kites meant for fishermen's hands. Chalkers had a bucket of glass beads that bounce light back where it came from, ground to dust that behaves like mist. The plan was not to set fire to anything. The plan was to make the mirror church chase its own tail. Rule 33. Never attack a system at its belief. Attack its logistics. Attention has supply lines. At 1:25. Fog rolled off the ridge like guilt. The kites rose with it, sails drinking what little starlight remained. We knocked an IR line at the heliostat belt motor. 12 kilohertz is a tooth in a very dumb gear. The belt stuttered, just enough to fall out of tune with itself. Down below, the mirror cascade operators saw their beam wander like a drunk and did what ritual teaches: overcorrect. One mirror went past its mark and flashed another mirror in the eye. That mirror flashed the hubcap. The hubcap flashed the gold icon. The icon flashed the eyes of 4 more operators. They looked away. Hands on wheels do what hands do sometimes: mirror the head. Their beams drifted. We helped the drift. Harrow's kites dropped shadow sails over 2 arrays like towels over Dutch ovens. The mirrors found black and fed it, eating their own not day. Chalk dust floated low. Retroreflective bits made the beams bounce back at the operators like shame. The bowl spun like a cheap disco stripped of sound. Then the fog entered the bowl and turned beams into white ghosts that bit everyone equally. They threw the wrong switches. The right ones were already wrong. No fire. Just humility. They shut down Cascade and took a breath like a room that had remembered it wasn't a stage. We left quietly. You can't sermonize after you do weather. You nod. You go home. Mirror Church put up a banner at dawn that said we are learning. The chalkers wrote under it, in parentheses, good. Then, 2 days later, again. I'm not in the habit of liking enemies. I like anyone who can be taught. Rule 34. If you must make a point, make the system trip over its own feet. Let them fix themselves toward your outcome. Chapter 16. Run without a bike maps are contracts with weather. Weather changed lawyers. 2 things happened at once. A fire far west sucked smoke out to sea, making the day come earlier than the math had sold me. And my chain did the impolite, snapping under modest load in an alley that didn't love improvisers. I heard dawn before I saw it. Birds making night, jokes into day politics. Wind shifting from velvet to stainless steel. My chain sagged like a wet snake. The spare was 30 seconds away, and the horizon took those 30 from me. Rule 35. Triaging gear is part of survival. Keep the thing that makes shade. Drop the thing that asks for tools. I stowed the bike in a trash cave behind a roll-up door kiss open. Left a grease pencil note where chalkers will read it. Taking me home, nitrogen monoxide sun. I took the tarp. The poles, the reflective strip, the way to make houses out of seconds. Noah. Run. East walls, knee light, step where others stepped. Breathe to math. Say no to curiosity. That's the mantra. Shadow ladders are real. Every city builds them by accident lines of black at the base of architecture that prefer east-facing brick. I made my ladder with physics. Tarp on pole, held low, pole tip dragging, mylar angled to double the Umbra. You can walk inside a shadow if you're boring enough. Rule 36. Marry your shadow. Keep it at your knee. Don't make it do romance. It's a contract. The first white lines came under the door seams of the district that sleeps late. Pinholes again, this time deliberate. Mirror cascades spun up far off, trying to write my outline on a wall I didn't consent to. I kept my eyes down. If white hits your retina too hard after months of night, your brain will give it privileges it didn't pay for. I moved ground to ground dumpsters, east lips, the backside of loneliness. When I had to cross, I threw the sail ahead, knee high. I slid under it and dragged the shadow to the next mouth. Sweat turned my shirt into a confession. The dew net flap made a little rain against my neck, enough to remind me that we can trick air. Halfway, my tarp caught on the corner of a sign bracket and tried to become a kite. I cut a corner so strange a geometry teacher would cry. Left pole, drop. Right pole, swing. Mylar pressed a brick like a lover in a song, but I wasn't singing. I moved again. Heliotrope's east practice beams licked the tower I needed. A bright thread skittered across concrete at the corner of my eye. Not sunlight direct. Mirror throw. It found unused paint and made it honest. I stepped on the thread with my boot, not my hand, because nerve endings are for loss. The line went away when the mirror blinked. The Daylord on the other end swore in a poet's meter. I hoped his poetry career ended at noon. 2 blocks from my hole, a white curtain loose day, blowing through an alley like laundry. Someone had opened a cascade wrong and was painting a fence with death. My choice. Go through it slowly and die quietly. Go around and meet a wall. Or go up. I ran a rope over a pipe shoulder, tied a munter because it's cheap and works, clipped myself in and walked the wall with my feet against the brick and my back to physics. 2 steps, cinch. 2 steps, cinch. The curtain below breathed. I wanted to. I didn't. I found the second floor ledge, rolled into it like a memory, knocked on a window frame whose owner never came back. I lay on my back and counted, 2 in, 2 out, until numbers stopped being novelty and became electricity. I cut across a row of rooms, each with a story I refused to read. I dropped down into my hole door wedge, curtains, wool. The day tried 4 door handles down the row like a burglar with too many keys. The wedge held. The wool held. I unfolded. I drank. Liaison texted 1 word rare on the handheld's low whisper. Home? Not safe, I sent back. Correct. She sent 2 dots and then, a minute later, bike? Married, I typed. Hiding. Will fetch at moon. I lay with my head on my rolled pack and my hand flat on the wool where day loses arguments. I counted the rules in my head, the way you count rosary beads if your God cuts the light. Never between sun and flat ground. Move black to black. Heat is a second predator. Blue hour is a hole. Light is a language. Pinholes are knives. Beige tape confesses. Fight with weather. Marry your shadow. The red light on the recorder watched me. I let it. We sleep by day. We run by night. We write our rules small enough to hold. We teach them to strangers large enough to matter. Moon made a new deal at the city. A thin coin, enough to buy the alley back from whatever looked at it at noon. I went to fetch the marriage I'd postponed my bike under the roll-up, where I'd left a note chalkers would read and daylight would ignore. The roll-up was cracked 3 fingers. A grease thumbprint I didn't leave ringed the slit. Inside, blackglass looked back at me like a dog, pretending it hadn't peed on a rug. A strip of UV tape on the frame chalker signature had 3 dots. Translation: We moved it and moved it back, and we're mad you scared us. Sorry. I breathed and meant it. I rolled out quiet. Chain still gone. Spare out of the rice sock. Links aligned by reflex. I love a master link more than I love most poetry. Moonlight silvered the pin. I set chain and turned pedals by hand 1 rotation, 2. It caught. It sang the soft song any mechanic hears. You still have me. Tension set. Wheel on. Clip low. Move before I got sentimental. Rule 37. Pay debts to your gear in private. Oil fix. Promise out loud. The city hears and will make you keep it. A cascade blinked to my right-wrong color for moon. Wrong rhythm for humans who do math. Mirror church practicing a new hymn. The alley cooled under a sheet. Somebody yanked across 3 balconies. I didn't trust charity. I hadn't set. I swung left into a tunnel of laundry lines, old bedsheets, painted flat with soot, new black. Backlit just enough to turn me into a rumored out 1 mirror beam. Felt along a lint trail and found where it wanted to be dramatic. The white line skittered under the sheet and silvered a stripe on asphalt. It found the bike's shadow, and I moved the shadow, not the bike, because that's the trick. You're always steering the dark, not the things. A sundog barked. Not machine, human. A call and response whistle for spotters. The drone that followed had a passenger canopy bolted on. Someone had repurposed a crippled day drone into a light sled. 2 Daylords crouched inside, mirrors on wrists, a parabolic dish sniffing from my heat. It hopped rooftop to rooftop, flaps to clawed, battery too proud. I ran up, not out. Fire escape to pipe, pipe to ledge, ledge to rooftop blister, where tar had bubbles like thoughts. The drone sled crested the gap between buildings and had to float my way to get a line of sight. I stayed where bricks taught wind to forget. The city teaches you the right time to steal. Gus tried to negotiate with my tarp good handhold. I threw the telescoping pole to fuller length and snapped the tarp clip to it, pressed it low to make night become wall. The drone sled spotter tilted a mirror slice and ran a beam into the tarp, which drank the scold and sent it to asphalt. The sled overcorrected again, ritual nose pitched to the wrong black motor whined. My pole clipped its belly. Not hard. Just enough to introduce it to physics that isn't a friend. Rule 38. If a hunter relies on angle, change it by a finger. Small is honest. Small works. They kept their sled in the air. Credit where due. But now they were writing their own shape in light, and I was just moving behind things. I threw my reflective strip onto a low parapet, an invitation to be wrong. They took it, lit it flash loud in a way glass will always be, and for 1 second I saw faces behind mirror kerchiefs. Too young. Theology is 80% age. I ran rooftop to rooftop, tarp low, pole angled, moving in the shadow of the hook of a crane past its working years. My breath went 2 in, 2 out. My thighs filed a formal complaint. The sled's motor dipped its tone, the unique vowel of mortality, and they tried to glide. Glide is for birds. Sleds hate it. They clipped a cable strung between 2 HVAC husks. The sled skated, rotated, and landed on a gravel roof with the soft sadness of a dumb idea tired of being. They didn't pursue. Respect or a phobia of rooftops. Night gave me a low stairwell to drop into. I descended on the pads of my fingers down handrails, slick with salt and chalk of other people's plans. Back on ground, I found chalk at knee height. 3 little moons and a fish, chalker for the market lanes. Under it, smaller, my note in grease. I owe. They drew a triangle back and filled it. Paid when you sleep. An old joke. It still works. Rule 39. If night leaves you a roof and a chalk joke at once, you're supposed to be alive tomorrow. Act like it. Chapter 18 Congress under Blackout U. Don't call it a union because unions have bylaws, and we can't afford paperwork the day can steal. We call it a Congress because you have to go to the same place and agree out loud in one room, on one sentence. The room is a theater that never learned to sell tickets to noon. Seats ripped, balcony hung with blackout quilts, aisles lined with buckets for dew that always smell like yesterday. A chalk slate hangs like a ship's tablet. House rules, and under it, one line you could fit on a curb at knee height. We gathered under a ceiling painted black enough to make stars curious. Glass shun, rope ladder man. 4 chalkers. 2 runners from South Lanes wearing their coolth bladders like sashes. Harrow cousins 1 with a kite sling under a coat. 2 elders older than the sunfall, who don't talk unless we're about to be stupid. The road mother took center by standing where everyone could see her hands. No mask inside, because if there's one place you breathe like neighbors, it's here. Skin that looks like the night we chose on purpose. She held up fingers. 5 minutes, and the lights go down again, because rules only matter if you practice them inside the habits. She knocked on the slate with a ring. 2 short, 1 long. Recite, she said. We did, in chorus, the one law. No courier makes day for another. No flares, no mirrors, no engine on a route that isn't yours. Set your own trap, die in it alone. It sounds mean. It's care. Rule 40. One law is all any Congress can carry into a city this loud. Choose the one that keeps everyone's nights long. Glass Chun raised a hand. Flag dispute settled at Viaduct 3, she said, and pointed at our fresh sign. We painted it before Congress. I watched the daylight find it this morning. I left because I'm alive. Chalker from the pillar's ankles always caked and line-stepped and drew a diagram low on the slate. Daylords dumped a roll of reflective mylar down the bowl. We cut it at the edge, no noise, because it makes day. Everyone agreed to hate mylar today. The House knocked agreement into wood, and we made it law for a week. Mylar is bait this city season. A South Lane runner laid a broken Prusik loop on the stage. Kid line glazed last week, she said. Not an accusation, a confession. Road mother lifted the loop with reverent disgust. Retire at glaze, not at failure, she said softly. A candle. She tied a knot around the loop 1/2 hitch. One bow that meant we carry this shame further than it weighs. Pamphlets are dangerous. Laws you can carry in a hand are safe until they aren't. We wrote editions under the one law so as not to pretend we can live with only poetry. Red rope equals practice only. Breath equals 2-2 at door. Everywhere. Door banned published for emergencies. 2 hours on. Pause. 2 on. No air for plans. Only floods and fire in 5 sentences or fewer. A courier I didn't know, a skinny person with mirror scars. Like punctuation stood to say the thing that needed saying. Mirror Church apologized for a cascade that kissed a child's wall. The house didn't woo. It nodded. Road mother drew a small parenthesis under the law and wrote again. We'll keep erasing it and writing it until it becomes muscle. Road mother closed by lifting her palm and showing us the lines. If one of you breaks the one law, she said, you will find you have no roots. Doors are mouths. They can close. That's not punishment. That's maintenance. She knocked twice, and the lamps went down to knee, and the room exhaled to quiet. Outside, I passed the stage door where someone had chalked a courier's blessing. Your night be black, your breath be counted, your shadow marry your feet. They drew a triangle under it and filled the dot with a smudge. Rule 41. Congress isn't speeches. It's a room where you renew the sentence you survive by. Go, say it. Leave before you start enjoying it. The forecast said red noon. We got brown. A dust wall capital D rose from the waist like a continent late to the party. Haboob, if you like to say old words with your mouth full of cloth. The day turned its face, and the world went amber in a way that made even Daylords call their moms. Dust storms are an insult with benefits. They turn noon black for an hour. We can run slow, lung careful, without worshipping shade. If you carry the right nets and a polite generator of static, you can harvest what hurts you. I stood in the underpass and watched the front swallow glass like an ocean. Sound went felt sub-audible, a hum that makes animals remember they used to have different bodies. I grounded my chain to a guardrail and clipped my kolf bladder to the inside of my vest. I wrapped my filter in a scarf soaked with brine salt. Water gives dust a hobby. Stick to this, not to my lungs. Rule 42. Noon that looks like night isn't night. Treat it like hot glass. Wear your lungs. Bleed your static. Don't get romantic. 2 things to do in a haboob that no one told you in school. Set the dew net perpendicular to the front. Dust carries micro-moisture that collects if you convince it to. You stretch the net like a guitar and watch water appear like a lie, becoming a better story. Raise. An electrostatic comb 2 poles with line between, a small piezo at the base, ground into chain. Dust dumps charge. Charge jumps to your comb if you invite it. You can trickle it into a battery wrapped in a sock. Sip-sized, it's not much. But the night buys even pennies these days. I ran in amber. It felt like being inside a bruise. The bike moved like a friend, carrying both of us through a bad party. Visibility dropped to a gesture. I moved by curb. I moved by the smell of wet in dust. I moved by the feel of chain buzz through my fingers. The Daylords hate dust because it makes day too honest. Their mirrors blind themselves. Their parabolics hum uselessly. A pair of them crouched under a billboard, praying to a religion without a service manual. One lifted a hand in the old human way, 5 fingers that say, I recognize we trod a place that can kill us both and would like to agree not to capitalize that. I lifted mine back. Etiquette survives better than theology. I stopped under the stadium ball because architecture is religion where twisters are concerned. The dew net sang in the wind and spat a cup into my tin in 20 minutes. Harvest. The comb cracked every so often tiny lightning kisses into the battery. Harvest. I strapped the battery into the rack. It buzzed like a bee with ideas. By the time the front's back edge passed, the world had new colors. Sky to the west wore a bruised green. You never trust that. East was white, a new paper for a bully. In the gradient, I saw Arc 7's hood in my head and heard their math in my hand. Come by before blue ends. We can speak a new shade together. Rule 43. Take the day's mistakes and bill it. Water, electrons, information. Pay your debt to the next run with pennies, and it becomes dollars in Winter. Chapter 20 West Sister. Blue night, they don't call it arcs, anything west side. They call it tidefold because it's honest. The ocean once owned the field. The shade learned to fold like waves. At night, the field glows blue. Not light in air, light in water, held up to breathe. Light in the backs of plankton who learned to speak. When you touched them. Hood met me at a gate cut out of the seawall that had the humility to not call itself that. The mesh hummed with damp. Inside, black tanks breathed under tarps. When the breeze moved, the tarps rippled and marine night leaked out electric blue in seams. A pulse that made me feel like a child in a museum that doesn't mind if you run. We teach air with this, Hood said. The blue lets you see it. We can show a new kid in 5 minutes what fans are for. We can show a plant where its wind really comes from. We can show a mirror that it's a liar. We can show you that night isn't black here. It's this. She plunged a gloved hand under a tarp and swirled water with a finger. Blue wrote cursive on the surface, a delicate script for neurons. She tapped the rim. 1 dot, 2, then 3. The glow trailed her like attention, the kind you don't have to buy. Rule 44. A new color isn't a miracle. It's information you didn't have the vocabulary to use. The West Sister had shade maze too, but this field taught different. The blue was a teacher. Air showed up in its light eddies around mesh, leaks at seams. They strapped a roll of tarp into my rack and clipped the jar to my belt. For chalkers, she said. Blue water makes you look like a clerk. It shows kids why you put blankets on day. Arc 7's sabotage code had cousins. Tidefold had caught. Words at the edge of their air malicious patterns in the fan hum. A 12 kilohertz purr sewn into the moaning of a storm. We wrote counter hums on sailcloth with math that fits in the mouth. Hum at 9.5. Cut at the hour. Change it once per dark. They danced to it. The blue made the dance legible. We stood under mesh with the field thrumming in a way that made day seem like a rumor. I let my rules line up like dew on rope. Don't be between sun and ground. Move black to black. Heat is predator. Blue hour is whole. Light is language. Pinholes are knives. Beige tape confesses. Fight with weather. Marry your shadow. Pay your gear. One law. Don't make day for another. Noon midnight isn't night. Bill day for its mistakes. Learn new colors. Road Mother would hate that list if I wrote it down fancy. She'd say it on a wall at knee height or shut up. She'd be right. I left Tidefold when the flood fell out of the moon and the field's blue calmed to gossip. On the way back, I swung by Heliotrope's bowl at a distance and saw sails up at practice, but with fog machines on purpose, new etiquette. The quarry had removed beige tape. Underline V had boxed their mirrors and posted Rope School 2 on the day room door. Underfold's fan bank had new filters. Quarry 9 had a new sign. Don't. Someone had underlined it 3 times. Chalkers had drawn parentheses. Good. The city breathes because 3 things learn to speak the same language. Ropes, light, breath. Everything else is garnish. On my way to the hole I'd chosen, I passed the roll-up where my bike had waited. Someone had written under my grease, "You owe us nothing." Then a little triangle. Then a ... I will always owe. That's how night works. But when you pay with the right things, the world allows you to sleep. Rule 45. End your run by writing 1 rule someplace a knee can read it. That's how you leave the city better for the next person whose night is about to start. I hung the curtain, wedged the door, drank dew from a tin that tasted like the act that got me here. I set the recorder on a muslin bag full of chain and let the red eye mean, we will remember. We sleep by day. We run by night. We invent ethics that fit on curbstone. We teach strangers and call them cousins if they keep ignoring noon with us. The night learned a new color, and I did not try to own it. I put it in the bag with my rules and went to sleep.